Good morning, everyone. My name is Manoa, and today we're going to talk about the Extreme SD-WAN solution. Let's have a look at the agenda. And for this morning, I will do a short introduction about the benefits of our SD-WAN solution and the different devices we have, which will take around 50 minutes. And after that, I will hand it over to my colleague Piotr, who will discuss a common use case and we'll configure the SD-WAN solution, including branch routers, VPN connectivity, and wireless. And at the end, we have some time for Q&A. So we know that people need a fast, reliable, and secure connectivity, no matter the location is. And with this COVID-19 situation, the need for that fast and secure connectivity is more than ever. Businesses and schools are closed and trying to enable teleworkers and distance learning capabilities. We as Extreme, we offer a multiple cloud management solution that helps organizations onboard new remote offices and support teleworkers capabilities. So we offer a set of remote office and remote working solutions, and all managed from one single pane of glass, ExtremeCloud IQ. We can use an SD-WAN router to connect the larger remote sites, and we will demo this. You will see this during the demo. And we can also use any cloud access point to create directly a layer 2 VPN connectivity between a home office and the headquarter locations. So in this webinar, we will only discuss the SD-WAN solution with the XR routers. And let's have a look at the benefits of the SD-WAN solution. So first of all, one of our benefits is the unified management platform, ExtremeCloud IQ. You have one single place to go to deploy, operate, support, and configure all of your network devices and have visibility of the devices, the users, and the applications that are connected to your network. So the SD-WAN routers from Extreme perfectly cooperate with the access points and the switches, so we can reuse objects with the have a very simplified workflow. If you do have distributed sites or you've got remote workers, then you don't need a separate platform and you can manage it all from one single pane of glass. And we have link state monitoring and link quality monitoring, what means that our SD-WAN routers in combination with the VPN gateway are optimizing and understanding which is the best link for any user, device, or application. And with the dynamic path selection, you are able to set those rules. So you can create rules based on application or other information within your network. We are able to optimize performance and are also able to block or restrict traffic with the built-in layer 7 firewall in each router. So let's have a look at the capabilities of the SD-WAN solution. There are 3 key areas, and I will dive into it in more detail. First of all, it's the ability to shape and optimize the performance at the application layer. So it's the ability to restrict the capabilities of different users and applications. And it's the ability to optimize the WAN links to make sure that if you have multiple links, you are using always the most effective link. So we can route traffic based on user groups. We can identify people based off, for example, their Active Directory accounts or their PPSK keys. And on the left side, you see the different user groups, corporate, guests, and IoT. And once you have identified who the person is of the devices on your network, then we can set the link priorities. So for example, the priority of the corporate users is first the MPLS connection, then the broadband connection, and at last the LTE or 4G modem. When we look at the guest, it's almost reverse. So they are using first the broadband and then the LTE connection, but are not allowed to use the MPLS connection. And when do we switch to the another internet connection? And that's based on, we are looking at on a per packet base. So if the connection of the MPLS, for example, is not performing, it will transition over to the broadband link. So we are looking at the performance of each link, and we will make sure that the user is getting the best experience. This is not only happening at the user level, but also at the application level. So what we can do is the same as with the users. So for example, on the left side, you see the collaboration apps. And the collaboration apps will first use the MPLS connection, then the broadband connection, and at last the LTE connection. And all other apps will using the broadband and LTE, but not using the MPLS connection. And what we can do is also a combination of these, the user and the application rules. So we can say that the corporate users, for example, will update their Mac OS or their Windows OS via the broadband connection, but all the other traffic will then go to the MPLS connection. And how does the application and user routing work? So the routers and the routers are monitoring the link status and will always choose the best internet connection. Every time a packet hits the router, it's looking at which is the optimal link to use. So for example, it might send 5 packets over the MPLS connection, and then it realizes that there is an issue on the link. Then the router will reroute the traffic, and the next packets will go over the broadband connection. And we will monitoring the link based on latency, jitter, and packet loss. So this is the technical part of the SD-WAN solution. Let's have to look at the SD-WAN devices. First, we have the remote branch locations. There we have the XR routers, the XR200 and the XR600. And I will discuss the difference between them in a minute. We have the HQ and data center location. There we can install the virtual VPN gateway to terminate the layer 2 and layer 3 IPsec VPN tunnels. And to manage all these devices, we have for ExtremeCloud IQ management solution. So let's have a look at the devices in detail. The XR200 is a router for these smaller locations. It has a fixed 1 port and 4 Ethernet ports for local area connections. The first 2 Ethernet ports will provide power over Ethernet out with a power budget of 30.8 watts. It has a USB port if you want to connect an LTE or 4G modem. And in terms of performance, you have up to 200 megabits of firewall throughput and 100 megabits of VPN throughput. The XR600 is his big brother, and he has 6 Ethernet ports and with 2 dedicated WAN ports. The 4 Ethernet ports provides power over Ethernet out with a total power budget of 60 watts. And in terms of performance, you have up to 600 megabits of firewall throughput and 250 megabits of VPN throughput. And lastly, another difference between the XR600 and the XR200 is that the XR600 supports URL filtering. And we don't have a feature license for that. It's all in the box. So let's have a look at the VPN gateway. The VPN gateway is a virtual appliance available as an OVA image for VMware. It is designed to terminate GRE and L2 and L3 IPsec VPN tunnels, and it supports up to 1,000 tunnels. And it supports routing protocols such as OSPF and WIP version 2 to share the routing information with the routers or firewall in the data center. And lastly, we have to look at the how the deployment works. And if you are familiar with our access point and switches, you know that it's very easy to get it up and running, and that is the same for the XR routers. You can send the XR router out to a remote site, have someone connect the router to the internet, and then it will find its way to ExtremeCloud IQ. If you set up the configuration already, or you configure auto provisioning, it will automatically download the configuration and the latest software. So you don't have to pre-stage any of these devices. You can ship them to a site, have someone plug it in, and you can do everything else remotely. So it's very easy to get your remote site fully operational. So this is a small introduction about our SD-WAN solution. And we have seen the technology behind it and the devices. And with that, I will hand it over to Piotr, who will discuss the use case, and he will show you the power behind our SD-WAN solution and how easy it is to configure it from ExtremeCloud IQ.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing fine. I would like to show you some demo of the SD-WAN solution. This is, let's say, this is our demo which we will be showing you today. As you can see, we decided to connect two sites, two remote sites. One is in the Netherlands. It is at Manoa location. There is an XR600 SD-WAN router, and there is also a wireless access point connected to this XR600 router. The second location is at my home. It's in Poland. I have XR200 router. There is also a wireless access point Atom connected to it. And all those routers will be connected to our Polish office where we have the lab. There is a firewall in the entrance. We are doing a one-to-one NAT, and we redirect the IPsec traffic to the VGVA virtual gateway. We also, of course, also have some Active Directory, domain server, DNS, NTP, and so on and so on. Why we are doing that? We want to show you kind of construction offices around the country. So this is one of the use case we think is very valid, because those small routers are designed to connect a lot of small locations around the country, around the world, to a central site. The main idea is that we can use this for the retail networks of shops, but let's say in the current situation, it's not really very valid. We can use it for the remote hospitals. So if we set up some hospitals somewhere where it is not a constant, where we do not have like a constant connection, we can use SD-WAN router as a connection to the central site. And another idea of ours is like construction offices around the country where you have construction going on, road constructions, some buildings and so on. And there is always a small office somewhere where those constructors are, let's say, looking into the papers and need to have the connectivity to the central site. Okay, so the main idea of the SD-WAN solution is that it is very easy to implement in a scale. So if we have a lot of remote offices, it is very easy to implement. It is very easy to configure. So I will stop the video and I will start to share my screen. So you will see. First of all, I would like to show you, this is my access to the ExtremeCloud IQ portal. And we are right now using cloud account of Manoa. So as you can see, I have access to several clouds. So Manoa gave me the permission to his cloud. And right now I am able to open it. And you will see all the devices that are connected. And right now you will see that all the devices are up and running, but are not configured yet. We can see some IP addresses that are, let's say, default, and we did not apply any policy. And we have all the devices which you saw on the picture. So XR200, XR600, VGVA, Atom, and AP305. C. So right now I would like to show you, because let's say we, with the devices like XR600, 200 access points, it's very easy, because if you will take this device out from the box and you will connect them to the internet, they will automatically connect to the cloud. The situation with VGVA, which we installed on the central side, it's a little bit different, because you have to, first of all, set up the VGVA. So I will show you how it is set up. I created here a VGVA virtual machine, so I will not show how we install the virtual machine. It is not part of the demo, but we will see here how it will look like when the VGVA will boot. We have to, first of all, configure the IP addresses or how the device will be connected to the internet. So let's have a look at this. So the device is currently booting. The default username and password is admin and /. So we are on the system, and right now we can go through the configuration of the network settings. So the first one is already chosen, the first point. So we have a possibility to obtain the IP address from the DHCP because this VGVA is usually, as in our solution, it is usually in a DMZ zone after the firewall. So I will have to put a manual configuration. I will put the IP address like 254.11. Then I will put a net mask. It is 24 in my location. I will put 72.30.254.254. It's my default gateway. And then I will have to put also a DNS server. So this device will connect to the internet, to the cloud. I want to apply those changes. And right now I can go and test the connectivity to the license server, because if we install the VGVA, we do not really have the license. Right now we will go through some checklist. If we have the internet available, if we have default gateway available, DNS is available, and the license server is alive. So right now we go and we go and have to provide the activation key. So the activation key is 4 to 5 characters information that is given when you purchase the VGVA. Because it takes time after I set up the VGVA and it has to reboot and has to connect to the cloud, it takes time like 5 to 10 minutes. So this is, let's say, not the one which we will be showing today. And I have another one already which went through it. I put the activation key, the device is rebooted, and after 5 to 10 minutes, it appeared here on my list. Okay. So right now we will start the configuration. I will start the configuration with VGVA. So with the central site. So what we have to configure here, we go to the configuration option, to the device configuration. Usually we want to change the host name to something meaningful. So I will change this to VGVA, so Virtual Gateway Virtual Appliance. Then we have a possibility to choose a device function. We can set up the VGVA as a layer 2 or layer 3 VPN gateway. We will be not focusing today on the layer 2 functionality. You can create layer 2 VPNs terminations that are coming from access point, but this is, let's say, not for today. We will be focusing on the layer 3 VPN solution. The other option which we have to choose is a deployment model. So it is possible to deploy VGVA in a one-armed or two-armed solution. So what does it really mean? Because we are behind the firewall, we just connected the VGVA with a single interface. So we will choose a one-armed solution. So this interface will accept connection from will accept IPsec connection from the XR devices, as well as will connect the traffic from those devices, will forward this traffic to our internal network. If we would not have a firewall and we would put the VGVA to the internet, then we have to use the two-arm solution. So one arm will go to the internet, the other arm, so the other interface will go to the local network. Then we have to put SNMP location like Warsaw HQ. We will not choose the network policy yet because we did not set up this. So we will choose the network policy for this device a little bit later. But we have to configure the IP address for the management interface, and this will be what I can call supernet. So it will be a big network where all the remote location will be connected, and we will manage devices using this network. So in my case, I decided that it will be 172.17.0.0 private network. Sorry, not zero. Yeah, zero. It will be 172.254.254. It will be the IP address for my management interface of my VGVA. Okay, then I will save the configuration. Then we will go to the port configuration. As you can see, this is my IP address. This is my default gateway. This is taken from the configuration of the device. We can turn off the second Ethernet LAN because it is not necessary. Then we have to go to the routing policy. And in this device, we can enable dynamic routing. We can enable RIP version 2 or OSPF. We will not be doing this in our scenario, but we will just put internal subnet, which is at our HQ in Warsaw. So I will put here the IP address, which is the subnet, the whole subnet of our Warsaw office network. Okay, so it's 172.30.0.0. We can put more subnets here. Then we have the DNS servers. We can enable DNS server, and I will choose one of the DNS, which is Warsaw HQ DNS. So it is already pre-configured for some other tasks. So we have 172.30.9.10 and 172.30.9.11. Those are two DNS servers at our office. The domain name is Extreme Local. Then we will go to the NTP, Network Time Protocol. It's, let's say, maybe not very important, but important part of the configuration. So we also have a pre-configured NTP server, which are our two Active Directory servers that are in the Polish office. So that's, let's say, more or less the configuration of the VGVA. I hope that I did not forget anything here. And then we will go to configuration of our network policy. So I do not have any network policy, so I will add one. This policy will be for the wireless and also for the routing, so for our SD-WAN solution. We will not be using switches, so I will just uncheck this. We will call it TechTalks, this policy name, and we will save it. Then there is a possibility to configure wireless networks in this policy, but I will leave it to Manoa afterwards. First of all, we have to set up our network, so we have the VPN tunnels up and running. So there are device templates for the access points. It's also for the wireless part. Then we will go to the router settings. So first of all, we will add router templates. Okay, so we have two different XR devices. So we will configure the templates for those devices. I will call it like XR200P Tech Talk. So this will be my template for the XR200 devices. Now, what we can configure here, we can see that we have one port configured, and it is our primary WAN port, and we have some access ports. Because we want to connect different devices on the XR, one of those different devices will be our access point. So we have to pre-configure some templates for the ports. So I will create an Ethernet template, which I will call I will call it for example, guest template, guest tech talks. Okay, so it will be the access port. We have to choose which VLAN will be assigned to the guests. So I can choose. We already have pre-configured some VLANs for the guest users. So we will choose tech talks. For the guest, we do not want to allow SSH connection. As you can see, we can also, on the port, we can also enable MAC authentication, and we can also enable 802.1x authentication, but we will not be doing this today because it would need to, let's say, we would have to set up also the backend servers, and it's, let's say, out of the scope of this webinar. So just a simple access port for the guests. Then we will do save. And as we can see, we all automatically chosen the port for the Ethernet WAN. I will also create an access port. So sorry. So I will create a template for the access point. In our case, it will be trunk because we want to have three types of the connections. We want to have users, we want to have guests, and we want to have a network for the IoT devices. As I told you, the scenario is that we are doing the construction company. The construction company may have some IoT devices that are connected, that needs to connectivity through the wireless to our, let's say, central infrastructure. So right now we have to choose what is the native VLAN, and the native VLAN for the access point will be 1, because this will be also our management VLAN. And the VLANs for the users and for the users, normal corporate users will be number 10. For the guests, it will be number 20. And for the IoT devices, it will be number 30. Okay. We also don't need SSH here. We will leave ping, and that's it. Okay. So we right now have also a guest access connectivity on for access point connectivity on Ethernet port number 2. Then I will also create another, just a normal user. So corporate Tech Talk. It will be also an access port. I will choose the profile. It will be Tech Talk Corporates. So it's very similar configuration. I will also disable Ethernet SSH, and that's it. I will save it, and I will create another port template. It will be IoT. It will be an access port. We will choose the VLAN. The VLAN will be Tech Talks IoT. We will also disable SSH. Okay, so right now I hope I have all those profiles, let's say, configured, and I can, let's say, move around. So let's say on the first port, I want to have a corporate corporate devices, corporate users. On the second port, I will leave like access point. On the third one, I will, let's say, put a guest, and on the last, sorry, I will put the guest on the last one, and I will put the IoT on the third port. So this is just to show you how we can use those port profile we created earlier. Okay, I will do save. Then I have to do similar stuff for the XR600. It happened that we have two different types of devices. So we have to configure another profile. So on the Ethernet 1, Manoa will have a corporate user. On the Ethernet 2, we will have access point. And let's say it is not, as far as I know, Manoa does not have anything else connected. So I can choose whatever I want. I can assign those port profiles to ports of the XR device. So right now we have two templates that we will use. Of course, in a bigger scale, usually you will have like the same devices. In our case, it is a little bit more complicated. We have two devices with two different templates. The next step, what we have to configure is the network allocation. So network allocation is very important because we want to provide the IP address subnets, which will be used for all the subnets on all the XR devices for all the VLANs which we just configured. So first of all, I want to create a new management network. So this will be my management and subnet. So I will choose a network type. So there are three network types. It is the management network, and it will be used to communicate between the devices. So the routing information will be exchanged. This may be also used for the SNMP remote management of the XR devices if we will need it. We will create a unique subnet at each site, and we have to provide the IP address of the management network. And this is once again a supernet subnet. So we will create just one big subnet. And right now, the cloud interface allows us to configure how many from these big subnets, how many branches we want to have, and how many clients per branch we can get from the above subnets. So I will choose 256 branches with 253 clients per each branch. It is maybe not necessary for the management network, but just to be consistent with the, let's say, first and second octet, which will mean that this is a management network, the other will be guest network or IoT or corporate network, then it's just easier for the management afterwards when you check the IP addresses. Now we have possibility to choose which IP address from the subnet will be your default gateway. So I prefer to have the last IP address of the to be a default gateway. Some people prefer the default gateway to be the first IP address from the subnet. So I will use the last one. And then we want to enable DHCP. So the routers can get an IP address from the DHCP. I mean, the devices that will be connected to the management network behind the router can get the IP address, like the access point will get the management address from the DHCP server. So for the access point, it may be necessary to fulfill also for the management network, it may be necessary to fulfill also the NTP server. It will be extreme local domain. And let's say that we want to have some static IP addresses available. So I can choose that I will just use for the management networks first 199 IP addresses, and the 54 IP addresses at the end will be left for some static IP assignments. Okay, then we need to choose a DNS server, so the devices will know how to connect, let's say, for example, to the internet. So this is the management network, so I will put a DNS, which is in our Warsaw office. We can have a look. This is the configuration of the DNS in the Warsaw office. Okay, that's it. So right now we have management. We have to create all the VLANs in a very similar way. So I will add another network. So I will add the network for the corporate. So this is the VLAN which is already pre-configured. If you will see it, it's a VLAN number 10. Then I will choose a new subnet, which I will configure it here. So corporate subnet. It will be internal use because it's our private internal use in a company. We will create also a unique subnet for each site. It will have an IP, the subnet 172.18.00/16. We will also change to 256 branches, 253 clients, the same last IP address as a default gateway. And because this is for the corporate users, let's say that the corporate users, so the computers, will get the whole space without possibility to configure static IP addresses. We will not send in the HCP NTP because it's not necessary for the workstation. We will send the domain name, and we will provide a DNS, which will be also Warsaw HQ DNS. And then we will save it. Similar way, we will add for the network for IoT devices. For IoT devices, we are using the VLAN number 30, and I will create a new subnet for the IoT devices, IoT subnet. It will be also internal use because those IoT devices have to connect to our central location. We will create each subnet separate. It will have an IP address of the subnet 172.19.00/16. Okay, once again, number of IP addresses. The last one, we will enable DHCP. IoT devices may want to access our NTP server. And then I will choose once again a Warsaw HQ DNS because it is for the internal network. And then at the end, we want to also provide a guest access for the users in the remote location. So we will choose the VLAN for the guests, and we will create the subnet for the guests. So I will create guest subnet. The guest, it will be for the guest use. We will not really create a separate subnet for each location because it's for the guest user. They want to just connect to the internet. So we will create we can create a single unique subnet. Oh, I cannot choose this. Oh, okay. 192.168.100.0/24. Okay, I should be able to choose the unique subnet network. Manoa, do you have some hint?
For the guests, not, because it will recreate the same subnet at each site. So
yeah, but
firewall for all the guests on all the sites, the local IP address will be the same for the guests.
Yeah, but I cannot choose this. It's grayed out.
Yeah, you can only use the same IP addresses at each site.
Okay, sorry, I misread it. Yeah, I will use exactly the same subnet for each site, so it will not be a unique subnet for each location. Sorry for that. I was like focused on. So We enable also DHCP. We will not send NTP server domain. Maybe we can use it like a guest local or something like that. And important is that the guests will get public DNS servers, which are already pre-configured in our scenario. Okay, sorry. Okay, so now we have all the VLANs already configured, and the network allocation for each site. We will save it. And then we will go to the VPN services. So we will create right now a VPN service. We will add a new service, which we will call TechTalks VPN. It will be Extreme Networks VPN Gateway. I will put 255, let's say, locations. I will add the VPN gateway because we already pre-configured VPN gateway, so it should be available here. We don't know where there is an external IP address of the VPN gateway because in our case, it is behind the firewall. So I have to provide here the IP address of the external IP of the public IP of the firewall. So I will have 213, 216, 81, 178. I will leave all the default configuration for IPsec. If you want to change it, it's possible, but you have to know what you are doing. Okay, so this is default configuration. I will just save it. Then there is an SD-WAN possibility to enable how we will use SD-WAN. So let's say we will put it like a Tech Talks. We can choose one priority. So we will have like a 1, 0 will be our first priority. And let's say USB can be our second priority. So we can plug an LTE modem to the device, and then we will have like a possibility to have a backup connection using LTE. Then we have to configure a routing policy. So I will call it TechTalks routing. We will do split tunneling. Right now, the current internal users, users profile any guests, so guests to private destination is drop the traffic. So guests will not get to the private destinations. Then we have another source from anyone to the private networks should go to the corporate VPN. And then the rest should go just to our primary one and a backup one. Okay, and then save. We also can do some other stuff like URL filtering, like firewall. I will not go into details on this because let's say we are focused right now on how easy it is to set up these remote locations. And I think that's, let's say, more or less the whole configuration we want to do right now. And right now we will go and deploy this policy to all the devices which we have in our configuration. I will do upload. And because when we are doing the first upload, it is a very good idea and it is recommended to do a complete configuration upload. So we will do the whole configuration will be sent to the devices will reboot, and hopefully all the devices should connect itself. So we can go to the main screen, and we will see that all those devices, the configuration was already sent. The devices will reboot and will come up hopefully with the proper configuration I hope that I did not make any mistake. And the whole subnet, the super subnet that I provided is automatically divided for each remote, for each XR device to separate subnets. So each device will get automatically all the subnets for their particular location. So even it does not matter if we have just 2 routers or we have thousands of the routers of the XR devices, then the configuration is exactly the same as I did it. Okay, right now it will take some time. So I don't know if there are any questions, let's say, that pop up that we can answer live.
Yeah, let me just quickly go through the Q&A. So we do have some questions still open. So the first one is basically, do we support or are we planning to support the IPv6 in such a configuration? I think that the question is regarding the subnets for the devices themselves. So Manoa, Piotr, so what do you think?
Yeah, so I don't know, but this is, let's say, for the internal network. So I do not see so many, let's say, enterprise customers using IPv6 internally. So I'm not sure if it is, let's say, the first priority which we should have for the SD-WAN. So I don't know anything about the plans. Manoa?
No, I have to check afterwards. I'm not sure.
Okay, another question or a group of questions regarding when we have like a redundant connectivity on an XR. So like one connection over one, let's say, link to the internet, the other connection to the other. What let's say traffic parameters can we use to control, let's say, the traffic flow?
Manoa?
Sorry, my line was bad. What was the question?
So the question was, what parameters can we use to determine where the traffic actually flows in case we have redundant connectivity options on an XR?
Yeah, we have, it's, Piotr showed it in the configuration, in the SD-WAN configuration.
Yeah.
Maybe you can show it again. And there is a chart available with the threshold, the different thresholds, and I can share it afterwards. But there,
I did not send it. Save it.
yeah, you can open the VPN service.
The VPN service?
Oh, sorry, the SD-WAN service.
Okay, I did not save it.
No, you have to save the. Okay, no, we cannot show it. But there is a the different thresholds.
Oh, okay.
It's aggressive. It's normal and moderate. And I can send the chart afterwards.
Okay. Another question: whether we have any firewall functions on the VGVA. So when we terminate the VPN tunnel and then the traffic flows through the VGVA, are we able to somehow control that traffic in terms of firewall functions?
No, we have the firewall built in the XR routers. And I would always prefer to have a firewall between the internet connection and the VGVA. So there's no firewall functionality in the VGVA itself.
Well, if I may add something, you know, if we are talking about the firewalling, the thing is that the firewall function should be done as near as the client is, in fact, to protect the client and traffic to the client and from the client. So, well, I don't really see much of a use case to do it on the VGVA, in fact.
And
Okay.
in any way, if you want to do it on VGVA, I think it's not really a good idea. As I told you, we have a firewall on the let's say on the parameter of the our lab, and we usually place the VGVA in DMZ. So you can use a firewall that you protect from DMZ to the internal network if you want to do firewalling on the from the VGVA to your internal network. But as Adam said, it's much better to save the bandwidth from the devices and create and use the firewalling capabilities on the routers itself.
Yep. Another interesting question is, so consider a situation when we have only LTE connection on an XR. So will it be like a fully functional connection? Will it work all together if we don't have the primary, let's say, connection over the Ethernet?
Yes, it will.
The primary
I was just answering. Yeah.
The primary
can be the LTE. Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions?
Again, on the LTE side, there's a question if we have a USB dongle compatibility matrix.
Yes, you can see the dongles in the configuration, in the port configuration on the device level. And you can also add your own configuration for for a specific dongle.
Okay. We still have a couple of questions. So in the demonstration, what is the setup for the VGVA DMZ? So the question is regarding the interfaces. Is external interface and internal VLAN to firewall?
Okay, so it should be in a DMZ. In our case, in our lab, we do not have really a DMZ. So it is just on the internal network of our lab. It is connected to when I configured this, it was the internal network 172.30.254.10, and the firewall was 172.30.254.3. So it is on the same subnet as the firewall. I don't know if this answers the question.
I hope so. Okay. And there is a question that popped up a couple of times. So there was the CDP, and the question is it possible to turn the CDP on the internet side?
I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah. So, but the question is in the possibility side, so whether it's possible or not.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think you won't do it. You will not do it, but yeah, it is possible. It's possible on both interfaces.
All right, and the last question that I see in the Q&A panel is basically if we consider the layer 2 deployment model, can we use the split tunneling like in the L3?
Yes, you can, but you have to configure the firewall function, which yes, you can. So when you the L2 VPN connection is between the access points and the VGVA or XR600. The XR600 is not mentioned, but the XR600 can also be a layer 2 and layer 3 VPN gateway. So in case you don't have a VMware environment, you can also use the XR600 on the HQ side as a VPN gateway. And if you want to tunnel all the traffic or you want to use split tunneling, you have to do that on the access points, and you can use the firewall on the access points for that.
Okay, good. Thank you, Manolo.
Okay.
Thank you, Piotr. Thank you, Adam.
So let's say the questions took some time, and we have everything up and running. There is a very nice sign here that all the tunnels are up. So it looks like our configuration was somehow successful. We also see the management network is also already divided. So here we have like the first subnet for the location in Poland. There is the second subnet for the location in Netherlands. Then we have access points that are connected to the management interface on the XR devices, I mean to the VLAN 1 on which we provide the management. So it looks, everything looks fine. So what you can do here, if there are some problems or you want to check if everything is correct, you can also access, for example, if we will go to the location in the Netherlands, we can use some utilities to access CLI. So if you know the commands from the CLI, you can do some stuff like show IP route, and you will see all the routing that is provided by the device. So we can see also some tunnels that here, those are up. So those are our networks. And so everything you can see here from the CLI. You can also try to ping. So let's try if we can really ping our Active Directory. So let's keep fingers crossed. It should work. Yeah, we have the answer. So it is going from the Netherlands directly to our office. So Manoa right now have the access to all devices in our office. If you do not want to do it or you don't know the commands, it is possible also to go to the tools, then you go to utilities, then the device diagnostic, and then you choose your device, like for example this XR600, and you have all those diagnostics tools already pre-configured, so all the commands already pre-configured. So you can, for example, show IPsec tunnels, and you will have all the information about the IPsec tunnels. Okay. And you can do it for all the devices. So I think it's very useful that you can do it. There are, of course, also possibilities to, if something is missing in the GUI, you can have like a supplemental CLI. So you can add some CLI commands to the configuration if the device supports the commands and support the functionality, but it's not in GUI yet. You can also use it. So let's say that's, I think, everything from my side, what I prepared. And so right now I would, let's say, pass to Manoa. So Manoa can show the wireless configuration of those devices that are already connected to the central location through the VPN tunnels. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Piotr, and I will share my screen. There we have the configuration. So we can use the same network policy as we did in the for the routing configuration, and we can add the wireless networks. I have prepared already 3 as networks. So let's have a look at the first one, the corporate network. For that, we will use the enterprise authentication, the radius authentication, the radius service on the office location. And we have some user profile with the VLAN corporate. So we reuse the VLAN what Piotr already created. And we have no special things configured, so no firewall rules or quality of service settings on it. Then we have the guest network and the IoT network. So in the guest network, we created our private preset key network, and with the captive web portal for guests. So there is a portal, we can customize it and we can show it. So in this case, we have to accept the policy. But if you want to change it with another logo, or you want to change some colors, you can do it here. And we have some user groups. So the TechTalk guests, and there is already a user in it. And the TechTalk guests keys are valid for 24 hours. So, and the keys are delivered by SMS or email. And we configured a firewall on the user profile level. So in this case, when the guest connects to the wireless network, the firewall is configured on the access points. So there we have some rules that they can connect to the DSP server to get a DHCP address and connect to the DNS server. But then we block all the traffic to all the private networks, and they can only go to the internet and not to the private networks, and no traffic goes to the tunnel. And we have some IoT networks, also private pre-shared key. The maximum number of clients per private pre-shared key is 1. So 1 key for 1 device. And the keys for the IoT devices are they never expire, and we can also send them via email or SMS. And we have some IoT user profile. The IoT VLAN is VLAN 30 and no security on it. But you can choose to configure a firewall if you want. You can do it there. So that's it for the wireless networks. Then we can deploy it on the access points. Let's choose the Atom.
Manoa?
Yeah.
Wait a moment. We have some complaints about the quality. So maybe I will just send my screen from my, and you will do the remote because
okay.
on my it was okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's do it. So stop share.
Requesting remote control. Okay.
Okay. So you should be
yeah.
able right now to manage that.
So let's have a look.
I hope it is better now.
And it looks better.
Okay. I have a fiber connection, and I don't know why it is. Okay. So the APs are updating right now, the configuration. One on the side of Piotr, the Atom, and my AP is the 305C. So once the configuration is finished, I can connect my device, and I have to check what the PPSK password is. So we can go to configure users, and then we have the user groups, but also the users. So we created already some guests, and we also have, for example, Windows 10 laptop. So, and I can show here the password. And if everything is correct, I can connect my device to the TechTalk IoT SSID. So Piotr, do you see the SSID as well?
Not yet.
Okay, it's still updating. Are there in the meantime some questions?
We have one question regarding one of the specific SKUs, but I don't really think that it's really audible.
Okay.
The question itself. So it will be better if we either answer, just type the answer, or we take it just offline and answer afterwards.
So I see the TechTalk guest SSID. And with that, I can connect to the IoT.
We did have one question that we sort of answered already. That is quite interesting, I would say. The question is, can we use some other platforms to terminate the tunnels? It's like not only BGBA, but some other VPN terminator concentrator.
Yes, I can take it. So yes, by default, there is a Cisco one, but I also configured the termination on the Fortinet firewall. So it is possible, but you lose a lot of automation. It is because, let's say, those tunnels are created here automatically on both sides, so on the VGVA and on the XR side. So if you will use like a third-party device, you have to configure this third-party device manually or with some tools for those, so let's say 1000 IPsec tunnels you want to open. So it's not so easy. Unless Manoa has some tricks to do it.
No.
So
No.
I would recommend to use our VPN concentrator or XR600 device.
Okay, let's see. Seven.
There was also an interesting question regarding our Extreme Access platform and how it is different and whether we plan to kind of integrate the XA platform with the SD-WAN solution. I think it's worth kind of elaborating on this one.
Yeah, so I think that XA is a completely different idea because it's an extending of the fabric network to remote locations. And so I think it's a different use case a little bit than this SD-WAN solution. This SD-WAN solution is really focused on small offices, small remote locations, or even like we right now can use it for the teleworkers, so for the people that work from home. But it's not really for bigger locations. So XA, when you want to extend your fabric to a remote location, it's usually not a small office. And so it's a completely different, also a price point. Yes, so for now, it is not possible. If it will be in the future, we have to, let's say, check because the situation looks like that if we have XA configurable from the cloud, that functionality of automatic assignment on IPsec tunnels would be very nice, I would say. So yeah, I think we have to take it as a feature request for our development team.
Yeah, and just a short comment from my side as well is that the general direction is that we take the Fabric Connect and the Fabric Extend piece into the cloud as well. So that's something that is for future, definitely, but this is in the plans right now. So hopefully at some point in time, we'll see the full integration, at least on the IPsec tunneling building side. I actually figured out, so Manoa, what will you say? Do we have some time for another question?
Yeah, sure. I only want to show them that my devices are connected to my wireless network, and I got an IP address from the guest range and an IP address from the IoT.
Yeah, if you will refresh, I also connected to my network with my phone. So you should also see in a moment, probably my connection to the IoT. Yeah, PSS. It's on my phone. I connected to the IoT, TechTalks IoT. Yeah, so
different subnet.
Yeah.
Okay, that was it from my side, Kirill. Let's have that question.
Okay. So the question is basically on the licensing side. So what licenses do we need? What level of licensing do we need in order to implement something like that?
Okay, for this, to manage the XR routers and to manage the VGVA, you need the pilot license. So we have the free version, the freemium version of ExtremeCloud IQ. That's the Connect level. but you can only configure access points and switches in that. And if you want to configure the XR routers with the SD-WAN functionality, you need the pilot license.
Okay, and what exactly do you need to license? Do you need like a license per each XR? Do you need a license for VGBA? Yeah. Do you need any other licenses? Okay.
Yeah, it's per device. So you need a license, a pilot license for 1 year or multi-year, and you need the license per device. So when you have 10 XR routers and 1 or 2 VGVAs, then you need 11 or 12 licenses, and then you can manage everything. So it's only that license and no feature licenses.
Okay. Okay, good. So I think we do not have any other questions as of now.
Okay, that's great. So thank you very much from my side, and see you on the next webinars.
Just a small closing comment and part from my side. Please, guys, stay online for another couple of minutes. First of all, I'm launching the nice poll with just one question. Please be so kind and answer. The question is really simple. It just asks you to rate today's session. And if I may start sharing my screen, just a few more slides. I promise to be really quick. So first of all, the schedule and the overall schedule, I wanted to share with you that we have implemented a couple of changes into the schedule. So the next session is still on plan. So next Thursday, 10 a.m. Central European time, we'll be talking about securing wireless networks with our flagship wireless security platform, ADSP, or Air Defense Services Platform. Very nice session. Again, a lot of demonstrations, a lot of case studies and real examples of how this platform can protect the wireless networks of any scale and any size. And then after that session, we have a couple of changes. So on the 7th of May, we will be talking about some scripting and automation basics, how to play with APIs, what APIs are, how to start approaching that thing. And we will do a short, let's say, overview of some scripting and programming basics as well. Then on the 14th of May, we will have the session on the tools. So we will discuss in more details what tools are available to you, our partners and customers, what can be used in order to help you to work with Extreme more efficiently and probably easier. And then the last session on the 28th of May is going to be an open Q&A. So the broader team of the systems engineers in the Northern and Eastern Europe team will join this session, and we will have a live talk and answering your questions. So stay tuned. We will get more details to you on that one. We will probably ask you to prepare some questions in advance if you can, and share them with us so that we can actually talk about that on the session. Then again, one more thing. So we do have our mini websites. I'm repeating myself, I know, but this is important. Important why? Because we have a lot of localized information over there, and what is even more important, the recordings to all the webinars you can find there as well. I've made a screenshot like that. So if you go to any of those mini websites, this one is in English, it's eem.extremenetworks.com, really simple to type, especially Extreme Networks, very short word. And over there, you will find the links to all the recordings. So basically, if you haven't received any information from us over the email, sometimes it happens just because the email address was private. And sometimes it happens just because our mail gets to your spam folder. You know, any reason might be there. But anyway, you can always access all the recordings here. Okay, so just mind that mini website. And if you want to watch the recording again, please go over there. So with that said, I want to thank you all, thank all participants for investing your time and staying with us today. I would like to thank my team, Piotr and Manoa, and all the other guys who helped out with the Q&As and helped out to prepare this session. So see you next Thursday, and thank you very much. Stay tuned and be safe. Bye-bye, guys.